guys, that's how a woman recently described the very painful ending to a long-term relationship with her boyfriend to me. She was in a lot of pain and she felt like she had been led on and deceived by this man. Now, certainly there are those situations, sadly, where someone is not honest, someone is not forthcoming and transparent, and something comes and hits you right out of the blue, and a relationship ends in a very painful way. And that is very sad and very heartbreaking, and I in no way make you responsible for that person's behavior. However, I want to talk with you today about something that I think is really important because I think it can help so many of you avoid landing in these very painful spots. And that is how sometimes we unwittingly participate in our own self-deception. So I don't really hear a lot of people talking about this, but I think it's so important. So I'm going to share my thoughts on this. I'm Michelle Marchant Johnson with Love Life Coaching, and I am here to help you be that woman of high value who loves and respects yourself and who meets that high quality man who is just right for you so that you can enjoy a loving partnership relationship. So let's jump right into this. As I mentioned, I talk to women so often and they share with me the accounts of relationships that have gone poorly or ended badly or in a very painful way. And so often I will ask them this question after I hear their story. I'll say, okay, I understand. Hindsight is 20/20. But looking back on it now, were there any signs? Did you have any feelings? Were there any indicators? Anything this person said or did that gave you an idea that you might end up in this place? And in almost every case, the woman will say yes. Sometimes they'll say, yeah, there were red flags that I chose to ignore, or sometimes they'll say, I liked him so much, I chose to overlook this or that, or there were feelings that I had that indicated that things might not work in the way I hoped. But here's what happens. We get emotionally involved, or we get attached to someone, or we get attached to the idea of where a relationship is going. And it's like we have on blinders. It's like we're hearing and seeing what we want to hear and see. And I had this experience myself. As a single woman, I dated a guy on and off for a multiple number of years. And there were indications that he really liked me and that things were really progressing and going somewhere. But there were also signs, which I didn't like to pay as much attention to, that there was some ambivalence and uncertainty on his side about what he really wanted with me. But I chose to focus on the things that were indicative of a relationship moving forward and going deeper and him really liking me. Those were the signs and signals that I wanted to pay attention to because that's the direction that I wanted it to go. Well, sadly, of course, things didn't work out because he truly was ambivalent about how he felt about me. I think he really liked having me in his life, but for whatever reason, he was not able to move forward. So recently I was reading this book by a woman named Lori Gottlieb. I think I'm saying her name right, and it's called Maybe You Should Talk to Someone. She's a psychotherapist, and in this book she shares some case studies, if you will, of some of the cases she's worked on with some of her clients to reveal certain things about our humanity and standing in the truth. But what really caught my attention in this book was her sharing of her own story and a very painful breakup that she had after 2 years of believing she was going to be spending the rest of her life with this man. And there were lots of indicators that he was really committed to her and to the relationship. And one night, what seemingly out of the blue, he told her that he couldn't continue the relationship because he did not want to be a part of raising her young son. She had had a young son when she was single, and he was basically saying he was kind of done with that chapter of his life and wanted to have more freedom and flexibility. Well, this felt like a thunderbolt out of the blue for her. She was just shocked and devastated. And the boyfriend left, and she was left to kind of pick up the pieces of her life. Not only of her relationship with him, but the dream that she had created of their life together that would no longer be. And she had a terrible time getting past this breakup. And so she enlisted some support and got some counseling herself. And in this book, she shares some of the things that happened in her therapy sessions as well. And in one of these therapy sessions, she kind of came to the conclusion, with the help of the therapist, that there actually had been some signs or some things that he had said that might have given her an indication that there was some ambivalence on his part as to whether he was going to be able to be in this role of helping her raise her young son. And so while certainly he has responsibility for maybe not sharing with her as much or as early on in the relationship about what was going on for him, she also chose to kind of have the blinders on and see and hear what she wanted to see and hear because of the dream she had created and the connection she had with him and what she hoped would be their future. And so, like myself, she may have been caught up a little bit in a fantasy, which can only lead to having that fantasy bubble burst and for us to be lying there in the dust, smoke, and ashes wondering what had happened. So I have 3 key things that I want you to keep in mind that can help you to not end up in this situation, to not be party to your own self-deception. The first one is to pay attention. I always tell women to go into any relationship, and even when you're in a relationship, to go in with your eyes wide open. In other words, you're paying attention. You're looking at what's really going on. And you're noticing the things that are outside of kind of this tunnel vision of what you might want to see in terms of who someone actually is or where a relationship is actually going. The second tip is to be willing to stand in the truth, meaning don't allow yourself to believe things that may not be true, and be willing to look at things outside of this scope, this comfortable scope of what you want to see, and be able to pay attention to those nuances and details that may be outliers, kind of like I was describing with Lori's situation. He was giving a lot of indication that he was into her, into the relationship, but also there were these outliers of some of the things that he said from time to time. And we have to be willing to be truthful to ourselves, truthful to others, and to be willing to stand in the truth, because the truth really does set you free from this pattern that can happen where we unwittingly participate in our own self-deception. And the third thing is be willing to ask questions. Ask questions of yourself, and if something comes up and you're noticing something or someone says something or it's just a feeling that you have, ask questions, ask internal questions, and be willing to ask questions, and don't make assumptions with someone that you're dating or in partnership with. And so if someone says something and you're not quite sure what the meaning is underneath it, but you have a sense there might be something deeper, you can even ask an open-ended question like, that really caught my attention. Tell me a little bit more about that. Ask those kinds of questions so that you're not making assumptions, so that you're not just hearing and seeing what you want to hear or see, and so that you're not unwittingly participating in your own self-deception. If we're willing to do this earlier on in a relationship, I think this goes a long way toward preventing these very, very painful endings, like the one I just described from my recent conversation with a lovely woman. So I want you to have the kind of love that you desire, and I am here taking a stand for you to be that woman of high value. And part of being a woman of high value is going into those situations from that place of curiosity and observation. You're paying attention. You're paying attention to not only what you want to see and hear, but what it actually is. So I'm hoping this is helpful. Please leave your comments or questions below. Please make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'll be back in touch soon. Lots of love for now. Bye-bye.